September 24th, 2013 is when I had an explosion in my apartment making hash oil. And that day changed everything. It fully changed everything because I needed not just a little slap on the wrist. If I would have got a slap on the wrist, nothing would have changed my life. I truly needed an explosion.
Hello, you're listening to Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast, presented by Brandon Elliott. This show will be going over all aspects of real estate investing and is intended to educate, motivate, and prepare you to take action on your first or next real estate investment. For more information, please visit BrandonElliottInvestments.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy.
All right, let's have fun. Hope you guys are doing amazing today. If you guys are watching this and seeing this, what's up? I just want to say hi. And we're going to talk about how to get massive amounts of funding today. I'm also going to share a little bit more about my story today because I've been having more and more people ask me to explain in detail a little bit more about my story. And so I'm going to share with you guys a little bit today. But before that, just giving you some updates of why my face looks like this. It looks shiny. It looks blown up. It looks red. It looks burnt. Right. And so I think the background colors and everything, the light in here is actually helping. But overall, Tuesday, I got invited by some other friends to go on a full day. When I say full day, 3 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night type of day for deep sea fishing down in Mexico. And so it was a lot of fun, but I didn't put any sunscreen on because I don't like that stuff. Instead, I like the burn. And so that's what I got. I got a good burn. But I caught like 5 fish. That was cool. I didn't catch any yellowtail. Disappointed. Boo. But I got a bunch of fish that I'm excited to cook up soon. And it was awesome just masterminding with some of my buddies. And it was like a first time Father's Day trip that we were planning. So that was kind of cool to experience that. Anyway, let's talk about it. If you guys have any questions for me at all, then put in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself. We can do it live. We can do it however. I just want to answer some of your guys' questions. But with that being said, let me tell you a little bit more about my background and how I got to the position of being qualified to talk and teach on credit, and how I am a credit, professional and strategist. At the end of the day, there's a lot of creativity that can take place with credit. The same thing with real estate. So if you're a real estate guy like myself also, then the best part about real estate is creative real estate. That's where it gets really fun. It's not just about making money. It's not just about making the worst thing in the neighborhood better or real life Legos, but it's really this real life Monopoly, right? And the way that I fell in love with all of this is really it comes from a desperate need and a desperate determination. So let's just go back. So I grew up in a household in New Jersey with a single parent mother and 2 other sisters. I was the middle, still am the middle. I got a younger sister, about 7 years younger, and then an older sister that's about 7 years older. And all 3 of us have different fathers. We never had a male good father figure in the household. We've had men come and go in the household, but my mother is an amazing woman. She's a saint of a woman for all the trials and tribulations that she's gone through. But I mean, she raised 3 misfits and did a damn good job somehow. But with that being said, there was also a lot of struggles. There was a lot of trials and tribulations of, she was diagnosed of manic depressive bipolar at a young age. And there was a lot of drugs and alcohol and other things throughout the years, not just in the household, but outside. And the things that happened to her, she wasn't able to get the healing from, which turned into the devastation and searching and seeking and hurt and heartache. And there was a season that we actually grew up in church, which was good. My older sister did not, but my little sister and myself, we were going to church for probably about 5 years or so, maybe on and off or somewhere within that time frame. And it was a really good season for me because it helped lay the foundation of having to stop relying on myself and to start relying on the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is Jesus. And that this world right here is just temporarily, like it's just a temporary type of circumstance. Like we're here for a short time. not a long time. And so what you do here is not necessarily going to determine, I mean, to a certain degree, it's going to determine where you go, right? But it's not the outcomes, it's the belief, right? And the relationship. The aspect of church, it's not a religious type of thing. It's not a sanctuary that you need to be at. It's a relationship with Jesus Christ, the one and only. And so you could have a relationship, a phone a friend. You could have a relationship, one-on-one in the sauna with God. So whatever that looks like for you is your relationship. I would say though that the house of, the church, the house of Christ is really like his bride. They say that in biblical terms, that's his bride, the church. And so we are supposed to go to the church. We are supposed to get challenged in the church, not be so sensitive, not be so hurt, knowing that there are humans behind the scenes trying to put on the church, and they make mistakes daily. They make mistakes yearly, and seasons come and go, and you should do your best to stick it out, but also what aligns with your core values and so forth. And also just the relationship with God is number one, first and foremost. With that being said, so I met my father when I was 18 years old in court so I could stop paying child support. At age 12, I finally got my first job. But hear me out on this. I was trying to get my first job at age 9. And the reason for that is, when you're a little kid, you constantly keep on going up to your parents and you're like, hey, 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 like you're pulling on their shirt, like, hey, I want this, I want this, I want that. Like my friends and people in the neighborhood, they had dirt bikes, quads, they had new bicycles, they had, these cool things, right? They had a new basketball hoop, new Jordans, back then it was like Allen Iverson shoes were awesome because I was in New Jersey, it was Philadelphia, it's like an hour away. And AI was like the man. He's still the man in my eyes, just a retired man. but that stuff was cool. That was like, that's what I wanted. I wanted access to that stuff. And because my mom, she wasn't allowed to work. Every time that she did work, she really found herself hospitalized short after. And so we lived off of Section 8. We had free housing and just had to pay a very small amount to be able to handle any like bills related to that, to the rent. So Section 8, we also had Social Security. My mom was on Social Security, making about $1,000 a month. And then depending on the month and depending on the season at the time was whether or not one of our 3 fathers would pay a little bit of child support. Typically, they didn't. Typically, it was very little. But from time to time, we'd get a little bit here and there until we were 18 at least. And so roughly living off of about $1,000 to maybe $1,200 a month to feed 4 mouths, and so there was just growing up on powdered milk, which was disgusting, demonic, I'm telling you, but also having help around holiday seasons for like Thanksgiving or Christmas for toys from local schools and local churches. Like that stuff really helped. It really made things better in many ways. But going up to your mom and begging and pleading to be able to get that new thing or that half pipe or that dirt bike, and it's like she would just be like, no, how like parents say that, no, stop it, like stop that, no. Eventually you get to a point where it's not just her saying no, it's her like almost breaking down in tears. You could see the pain in my mom's eyes of like, I can't. Like, no, I can't. I don't have the resources. I don't have the financials. I don't have the ability. I don't have the resources to be able to make that happen for you. And so when that body language, when that clicked of like, hey, she can't. And if she can't, then, and nobody else around me can, then if it's meant to be, it's up to me type of thing. That was the mentality I had at a very, very young age, at 9 years old. I also remember going to, as a young kid, you don't want to go to school all the time, especially if a test is coming up or like the summer's coming up and the ice cream store is back open, And so there would be seasons, again, not to bash on my mom at all. She raised 3 misfits. She did an incredible job. But there's also just certain disciplines that I acknowledged at a young age that came from, my mom encouraging, like, hey, why don't you stay home today? Why don't we stay home and go get ice cream? And it's like, you do that once or twice and you're like, yeah. And then you're like, well, I'm going to miss out on my test and then I'm going to have to make that up and then I'm going to be behind and then I'm going to be struggling. And then I don't want to do that. I want to catch up. Like I want to be on track with everybody else. And that pressure was like, ooh, I had to realize at a young age, I had to be responsible enough for my circumstances and take ownership at a young age. And that was great fundamentals that I needed. But the biggest thing in my house that was very struggling was like, it was all around money. It was all around money. And in the greater scheme of things, like you look back now and you realize it was more than just money. Like the deep relationship of God wasn't fully surrendered in the house. There wasn't a male father figure. Um, there were inconsistencies and things like that, food habits and working out, things like that. But I would say that the work hard mindset, the manners, you know, um, and relying on not others, but also being self-sufficient is what drove me. And so at 12 years old, even though at 9 years old, I was looking, I went around to all the neighbors in the community. I was knocking doors to see if I could cut grass, if I could pick weeds. And I did that from time to time, but it wasn't like consistent, right? It was like $100 here and there. It's like not enough. Eventually I went to, at like 9, 10 years old, I was going to golf ranges in the area. There's like 3 or 4, and I would go to them and I would ask like, hey, I know you guys have a little car to drive around and pick up all the balls. What if I put on my hockey gear and if I actually go like running around and collect and throw it in a bag and like people can be aiming at me and I'll be safe, but people can be aiming and it'll be fun, right? And I'll be able to collect more. And so they laughed at the idea. They loved that entrepreneur type of mindset and that creativity, but they laughed and said you had to be 17 with a driver's license to be able to drive the car, and that's the only way to do it. And so it was kind of funny, but nevertheless, at age 12, I finally got my first job. God bless her soul, by this amazing woman, Miss Linda, who we met at church, that owns this seafood restaurant, a big, huge, very well-established seafood restaurant with 3 bars in it, a huge kitchen. Yeah, just incredible, incredible service. Very popular in Sea Isle City, New Jersey. And she was able to get me under the table there and act like family. And that was something that was really special to me because I was supposed to be like 18 to work there because of all these other laws and regulations and so forth. So I was able to work the coffee bar, serving parfaits and desserts and coffee and getting paid well under the table. And I worked there for 3 years for the whole summer, 6 days a week. And it was awesome. What took place though is that because I was around, like at a young age, I really wanted, like my goal back then was to become a chef because I love cooking. I grew up cooking kind of myself, and I ended up finding myself loving to cook and wanting to go to culinary school and go to Atlantic City because there was a very high-end professional culinary school there that was like state of the art. And I was like, hey, I want to go there. And I think it was like 30,000 or something to go. And believe it or not, this amazing family ended up saying they would pay for me to go down the road if I wanted. And I blew that opportunity because as I was getting older, 12, 13, 14, I see all these cooks in there because there was a huge chef line. It was probably like 20 to 30 different chefs. And they're all like young guys, 25 to 35 years old, but they were all typical chefs that were like crazy, wild, drink a lot, smoke a lot, do a lot of drugs. And they didn't like their jobs. They didn't like their life. And so they were talking me out of it. Like, you don't want to do this. This isn't for everybody type of thing. And they were just some brutal guys, but it was still fun to be around and see that culture. But anyway, I started thinking about like, all right, well, if I'm not going to do that, I should do something else. Unfortunately, one summer I ended up finding out that one of my best friend at the time, he ended up smoking weed. I found it in his book bag in the car, and he had that and like a pack of cigarettes or something. I was like, what is this, dude? And it threw me off so bad. And he came from a broken home as well, and he was staying with this rich family at the time. And this rich family, like there were some pretty girls there, and they were older than us. And so slept over one night and they all like introduced us to weed at the time. And I was very against it at the time because I remember like years prior, I would like find my mom's stash and I would like throw it out. I would be no bueno to any of that stuff. And I knew the things that it did and so forth. And some of my other best friends I had that I looked up to found out that they were smoking things like that. And it like broke my heart at a young age. But what took place, full transparency, is I ended up smoking that night and ended up laughing a ton and just like crying laughing so much and eating a bunch and just laughed a ton, and we were getting on AOL and like talking to girls and things like that, like stupid things, but the peer pressure from it, and then just laughing. And it was the first time ever in my life that I ended up not caring and having a break for that mental capacity of like all the burdens that I think I was carrying for like finances. Is like rent going to get paid? Are the lights going to be on? Is like, you know, my house going to get robbed again? Like the stuff that I saved up, is it going to get taken again? And things like that. And so because I was able to laugh and just, I realized the next day, like, man, I want to do that again. And because I wanted to do that again, I realized quickly, just instantly, I realized that, hey, if I was going to do this again, I had to buy enough that I could have my friends pay for it, and then I could smoke for free. That was just natural, crazy. And so what took place is exactly that. And I ended up, the place that I knew where to go is people at work and some of the chefs, and to find some and buy some. And then I would get enough money to have a little bit left over for me to smoke for free. And I just kept on doing that. And eventually I would be actually selling it to some other friends and some other people. And what took place is I wasn't used to spending money. I wasn't used to necessarily saving either, but I wasn't used to spending it. And so I ended up just keep on whatever I would make, I would take back to the dealer and get more. And then however much he would give me, I would just go back, sell it all. Once I run out, I take all that money and I just get more. And it starts compounding and getting bigger and bigger and bigger until I'm walking away with like 2 duffel bags within a year of like almost 10 pounds each. And it just ends up getting a little aggressive, if that makes sense, of taking all this time, energy, and efforts to bag up all this stuff, to sell, to network, to call people, to let people know that I have things now and all this other stuff. And that took place for only so many years, so many years of doing that. Eventually cops start finding out about me. They're pulling over people that I know and asking them like, hey, do you know Brandon Elliott? Or I had guns to my head, knives to my throat from other random people trying to rob me and other things like that. It just took me down this rabbit hole of very harshness and a very hardened heart and brokenness, because I've had friends rob my house, people that I hung out with, like 5 of them hung out with every single day for 2 years, for, the whole day. I would find out that they robbed my house a couple days before Christmas. I found out that I've had friends get murdered that I hung out with regularly. I have had friends that I hung out with from time to time that had their house broken into and got shot and robbed, like crazy things, stupid things. And so I realized like I needed to get out of there because it was hardening my heart. It was pushing me to the edge because I'm a man of principle. Like I don't want to, back then I would have done stupid things just to keep the principle and the respect, like old school mafia movies, and that's stupid. It's stupid. Now it's like, if like money comes and goes, and I'm totally cool with that. I used to put money on a pedestal and it would control me like a puppet. Now money comes and goes. I know how to make more of it. You can't take what's in here. You can't take it. And so nowadays it's like, if somebody wants to rob me for a couple $100,000, you want to rob $1 million from me, by all means, as long as you leave me and my family alone, we're good. Like, take the money. If you need it more than me, run, enjoy yourself. Just because life's too short. Like I don't need to, like, I'm going to be protected. I'm going to be blessed one way or another. I have things protected, if you will. Like I got insurance. I got all these other things. I'm good. Like I don't need to worry. I don't need to put my life on the line. And I would have over stupid little things, back then. And so that craziness turned into in and out of bad relationships as well. And so I wanted to move to the West Coast, from the East to the West. And so when I went to the West Coast, I visited a friend. I met, somebody else that was growing out here and had a lot of product and affordable prices. That's when wholesaling came in, not real estate wholesaling, but legitimate different form of wholesaling. Buy in bulk for cheap and sell it to the East Coast and send it in the mail and so forth, and craziness there. And, I woke up one day to thinking that my house was getting raided. And in fact, it was two neighbors down the street. They were getting raided. And I look out the window and I see SWAT team and DA and what is it? The arms one, the F I don't know, I forget, but behind dumpsters and all this craziness here in San Diego, just wild stuff. But so I would always be on the edge, but I would use marijuana at that point. It was 10 years in, and I was using it for the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything in between, every single day, anywhere from an eighth of an ounce to a quarter of an ounce, just every single day. And it was just crazy, never having a break. But I was growing at the time. I got my medical marijuana card. I was still working. I always had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Even when I was selling, I was still grinding, working, and just getting out there, right? Because I'm naturally very introvert. And so I knew I needed to stay busy and have other people that I worked with to be able to build relationships. I wasn't going to naturally do it on my own. And that's where, one day, it was September 24th, 2013 is when I had an explosion in my apartment making hash oil. And that day changed everything. It fully changed everything, because I needed not just a little slap on the wrist. If I would have got a slap on the wrist, nothing would have changed my life. I truly needed an explosion to happen, boom. And all the windows in the house ended up blowing out. There was a fire in the kitchen. I was on my knees making hash oil, a bigger batch than normal. I was trying to rush, it was 7 o'clock. I was trying to get to the beach to go surfing. I just got into surfing. I was surfing consistently for about a month, just starting to stand up and feeling good about it. And I wanted to go smoke with some friends, go to the beach and get a burrito after. That's what I was trying to do. And I was doing a bigger batch than normal. And that explosion, I was literally hunched over in the kitchen doing it. And there was a spark from the outlet behind the stove. The stove was off, everything was off, but there was a spark from all the fumes going and just the electrical current. I didn't turn off the breaker box, stupid. And I knew better, but I also had so much favor in my life. I've been able to get away with way too much. I never had a true father figure correct me the way that God has. But again, that day, he still had so much love, so much care, and so much tenderness for my situation and my circumstances, because he allowed me to put on gloves that day. I've never put on gloves when I've done it, and I've done it dozens of times. I never put on gloves, and I had baseball gloves. I just didn't want to get my hands dirty, and I didn't want to have to wash my hands and all this stuff later, so I just wanted to run to the beach. So I put on these baseball gloves, and I don't even like baseball. I don't even know why I had baseball gloves in the house. Full transparent. It was just right there, and I was like, okay, I'll just throw them out anyway. Before I throw them out, let me just put them on and knock this out. And I had socks on. Okay, those saved my hands, and it saved my feet. Everything else was pretty burnt though. I was wearing basketball shorts, black basketball shorts, and I was wearing a white t-shirt. The white t-shirt. So basically I got tossed into the living room. I was hunched over and I got tossed into the living room. I jumped up and I realized I was on fire. So that whole thought of stop, drop, and roll comes across your head really quick, but you're also like, I don't think that's going to be as fast to get out versus just ripping my stuff off. Okay. I'm pretty good at that. And so I haven't done that whole stop, drop, and roll too many times. So I don't know how long we're going to take with that, but I have ripped all my clothes in the past. I think I got that. So end up running like a chicken with his head cut off. Right down my hallway, I'm ripping off my shirt, and then I'm ripping off my pants. And the pants turn into this black plastic ball, if you will, just smush, just boom. And then the shirt literally disintegrated to nothing. There was nothing remaining from that. The socks again and the gloves saved, I got skin graft up to here, pretty gnarly. And then maybe you could see that, maybe you can't, I don't know. But that stuff was wild. I got induced into a coma. I had to learn how to walk again. I went through 3 surgeries. I had a skin graft taken from my legs, my thighs, put on the back of my legs where it was really burnt, and then on my arms right here where it was really burnt. And there was other areas on my stomach and on my face and even my ear that was like, it was mangled. It was mangled and it was very on the edge. But luckily, they didn't need to do it there. And in your head, there's so much blood circulation going through, believe it or not, that it ended up healing my ear fairly quickly, which was awesome. Learning how to walk again, though, that was the most excruciating pain. That was crazy. Every time you stand up from being bedridden with your legs up for several weeks, you literally, every time you just stand up, the blood goes down to your body, and like it's just excruciating pins and needles of like just daggers. It feels like you're getting stabbed everywhere. It's like, oh my gosh. And so at first I had to do it just as many seconds as I could and then put my stuff back up, rest for 5 minutes and then do it again. And it was just excruciating. It was crazy. And I didn't wish that on anybody, but I also needed that correction. So I was fighting this court case because yes, after I got released, they let me rest up for a couple weeks, and I was just starting to get ready and prepared to like move because they raided my house twice while I was gone and it was all trash. And so I ended up having a buddy that lived with me at the time that wasn't there. He was at work and he was getting ready to move to Colorado, and so I was about to just go with him as well and move. And instead, they raided my house one more time with a search warrant to arrest me at night. And so I got arrested in a wife beater and in some basketball shorts, all burnt up. And that was very intimidating and scary because I've been arrested one other time when I was younger, when I got into a fight and they found weed on me as well, but I got released that night, just a couple hours later. This, they booked me that night. They put me through the whole process. It was over $100,000 bail, and there was no 10% on that or anything like that. Like it was the full amount. It was one of the highest in the jail that night, at least, even within a couple weeks. And it was just one of those situations that it was like, man, like I don't have that money. I can't put up $100,000 just to get out. And so I was in there for 3 weeks and they transferred me to another jail. And it's very, jails are very political, inside political. Like they run it in their own way. Colors matter and all this other stuff. Top bunk, bottom bunk, food, everything was nasty. It was wild. Stripping down and lined up with other people, coughing, like nasty stuff. Nasty stuff. And so I don't wish that on anybody. Straight up don't wish that on anybody. But I am grateful that God gave me that second chance because I needed something devastating. I needed something that was going to rattle me up and shake me up and not allow, like, have the fear of God in me so that I can change my outcome. Because I started realizing this in the hospital because having 3 weeks laid up in the hospital, the first week I was in a coma. So I wasn't thinking about much except all the drugs they had me on of like dreaming. And I remember I was playing Grand Theft Auto the weeks before that a lot. And so I was like dreaming about flying cars and all the cheat codes, and it was scary. Honestly, it was wild. But I remember sitting in the bed of the hospital when I was up and feeling all this pain and having people come around and like checking on me and all this stuff. And I remember feeling so bad that I put them in this situation that they have to care for me. Although that's their job, they enjoyed it. They have hearts bigger than ever. But I also just knew that like if I was smart enough to make the type of money that I did, even though it was illegal, even though I was doing the wrong things, I was on this wrong path. And if I kept on going down this path, there was no other forks in the road. I'm just going down this wrong path. And God had to course correct me and have an explosion in my apartment to make me stop going on that, to get back to home base so that I could have some different choices and to make better choices and to go down the right path, right? And so I just figured to myself, like, man, if I could be somewhat successful, if you want to call it, at least have finances, at least be able to buy my car, at least keep, supply for myself and really have whatever I wanted from doing the wrong things. I wonder if I could take that same knowledge, the same sales skills, the same techniques, the same whatever, and be able to put that towards something that I feel like I can lift my head up. I can share it with my nephew and nieces. I remember thinking that, like at the time I just had nephews and nieces, and I was embarrassed that they would find out about this. Like, well, how did Uncle Brandon get burnt? Why is he in the hospital? Why is he court charges? Why is he in jail right now? Like, well, he did some wrong things. And I was terrified of them finding out about those things, but I was also like, man, my future kids too, how am I supposed to tell them about that stuff? But I'm also such a blunt, transparent person that like, I don't want to hold anything back. I want them to know the full story. And so it was one of those situations I knew that if I could do something, if I could have some type of success doing the wrong thing, God knows what I could do if I made the right choices and go down the right path. And thank God for that, because again, I wouldn't have changed anything. I needed a real life explosion in my apartment to change my life. And so that's what took place during the 2 years that I was fighting this court battle. It was terrifying. I was facing up to 12 years in prison. At the end, they were really trying to get me for 5 years. And then what I was about to settle for in court when the day came around, it was 3 years they were about to send me away. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I had two dogs at home. I had work like a couple of days later, like, I think the next day later. I only took off one day a week every week. And so I was just like, I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't thinking that this was going to be a reality. I thought the $5,000 that I saved up, that I thought was everything, that I gave to the lawyer, like, we would be good. Thought we were going to be Gucci. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, they're really about to send me away. But luckily I was prepared and positioned by a mentor, my first mentor. And he prepared me for a time like this where I'm going to have my moment. I'm going to have my moment in court to be able to speak and tell my side of the story. And so he positioned me for it in a time where all eyes on me, all the DA just said the most horrific, horrible things about me. And my insecurities, my fatherless background, all these other damages, all these heartaches and brokenness. I was agreeing. I was thinking, you know what? You're right. Like, all these horrible things, like a menace to society, all the, like, he's nothing. He's going to hurt more people, mess up more things, like, lies and chaos and all this stuff. Like, I was believing it. I was believing it. And then they gave me the opportunity to speak and, like, go ahead, defend yourself. Do you have anything to say about this before we sentence you to 3 years in prison? I'm like, it's crazy. And so I just ranted on for 10 minutes about who I am, my background, how I was raised, and at the end of the day, that it wasn't malicious. And the judge just had a total 180. She totally just gave me a second chance and said, you know what, I believe that I'm going to reconsider this, because I believe that it wasn't intentional. I believe it will never happen again. I believe the lack of guidance, the lack of, people in your circle have been part of the reason why this took place. But I don't think it will ever take place again. And she knew that, and she gave me that second chance. She gave me house arrest and 3 years probation, and I excelled in both of those, and they let me off a little bit early in both. But I did get 2 felonies, a misdemeanor, and luckily just a couple years ago, I was able to fight for those. Something that they said would never be able to be retracted, I was able to get retracted and get totally removed off my criminal background. I don't have any of that stuff now, which is, I'm super grateful for. It couldn't be expunged. It had to be gone back to the original plea, withdrawn, and then put on a lesser account and so forth. So it was a unique situation, but it was something that I can keep my head up high. I can tell my son in the future of, like, hey, I made mistakes, and I made things right, though. I also changed things around, and I got my life back on track, and I fought for something that I believed in, and I made it right. We all make mistakes. We're all human. We all go through trials, tribulations, and going back, though, to that mentor. This is the first mentor, and I'm such an advocate of mentorship. I'm such an advocate of somebody that's already been there, done it, to be able to pour into you, and for you to open your friggin' ears and listen. And so the court actually, it was pretrial services, and they made me get a mentor. They made me get a mentor. That was part of the things that I was fighting for 2 full years before the pretrial services. It was crazy. They got me, I had to get a mentor, and that mentor actually had similar court things long time ago. He was an older gentleman. Kit, what an amazing, God bless his soul. He totally changed my life. He was the first male figure that looked at me and saw something very creative in me, saw something, a God-given gift, a blessing, and he saw more in me than I saw in myself. He gave me more hope than I could have ever imagined. He gave me a second chance. He gave me work that he didn't need to give me work. He knew I had a green thumb, so he was like, hey, you want to come over to my house and do some landscaping outside? So so I did landscaping outside, and he would just sit there in his lawn chair and, like, hey, pick all those weeds and, dig this up and get the mulch going and plant these flowers and stuff like that. And he would just talk to me. He would just talk to me. He would just pour into me. He'd pay me after. He'd give me a break and give me some food and just soak up, just sit in the lawn chair and and he would just pour into me. And that's what I needed at that time. And if I didn't have him, he prepped me for my moment in court. I didn't get prepared for that. If I didn't write things down, if I didn't have my story dialed down, the insecurities and the lack of public speaking, the lack of all the pressure on, like, oh my God, it was crazy. It was absolutely bananas. In fact, I didn't even speak for the first like 30 seconds, maybe even 40 seconds, which you don't think that's that much time. But when they tell you, like, hey, it's your turn to speak, and then they say it again 20 seconds later, and then they're like, hey, are you going to speak or no? And you're just sitting there like shocked because you've realized, hey, I'm about to get served 3 years in prison and they're about to take me now. Like, I'm not prepared for this. I didn't think it was going to go down like this. I don't know what to say. I'm like lost for words. I'm shocked. Thank God I like memorized my story. Thank God I wrote it out, and I spent a week prior to do that. It was thank God I really read it several times so I could make sure that I just clicked back into action. I just started vomiting everything for about 10 minutes. And it was genuine. It was from the heart. It was sincere. It was vulnerable, and it was needed. It was needed. They say that like your mess is your message. They say that. And I believe that for sure. I believe that everything that you go through, you're going through it for a reason. And you're not the first person that's gone through that circumstance. You're also not the last. And so there is somebody, maybe you don't know that person just yet. And thank God for social media because you can share your message openly, and you never know who it's going to impact, who it's going to spark that fire, that interest, that open their ears for the first time, maybe. And you don't know at the moment, but when you get to that place that you're sharing your story of the feelings, the ups and downs, the tears, the freaking out, the screaming in the jail cell, the begging God for a second chance, the coming to Jesus moment, all the hurt, the brokenness, the burdens that I was carrying for so long. You don't know how it's going to impact that next person that might be about to go through it or is going through it, and they don't know what the outcome looks like. Like, they don't know the season will come and go. They don't know how good it can get. They don't know, is this rock bottom or can it get worse? They don't know that yet. And so that was my rock bottom. Could it have got worse? Yes, it could have. I could have not been prepared to talk. I could have went to jail for 3, 5, 12 years. Bad things could have happened in there. I could have gotten worse. I could have had my heart shrink up and get more hardened. I could have been more broken from it. I could have come out of that and gone right back into doing the same activities, except worse drugs or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, thank God that was my rock bottom and it didn't get worse. And that it's been upstream, downstream, upstream. It's been nice. It's been way better. We live in a couple $1 million home right now. We have an amazing friends, amazing home, amazing wife, amazing baby boy on the way. We got an amazing dog, amazing team, amazing company, amazing impact, amazing bank accounts, amazing investments, amazing tax team, amazing strategies, amazing wisdom, amazing church, amazing community, amazing neighbors, amazing location, amazing views, amazing cars. Like, we have just all this amazing, amazing, amazing type of lifestyle that has come from the trials and tribulations, right? And so just know that your message is your message, but it's important that you get your mess out there, that you go through your trials and tribulations, and then you tell your story, because you never know who this could impact. You never know. And so I say that to let you know that you're not the only one. And if you know somebody in your circle, you could share this with them. You could also pour into them. You could also love on them. You could also, like, they're going to need to do it and want it for themselves, but they also need to have somebody there that's already been there and done it to be able to say, no, like, listen up, hear me out on this. This is what you do. And then, God's favor on the circumstance, really praying into that. But I'm so grateful how life looks now. We've been able to build an amazing community, fell in love with real estate. Part of the 2 years of fighting for, the whole court process is I started reading books for the first time in my life. I started I worked 2 restaurant jobs to save up enough money, 6 days a week, working doubles, and I was saving up enough money to pay off all the debt that I got into from the explosion, paying back off the landlord. He was shocked. He said it was the first time in his life somebody's ever actually paid that stuff back. So that was awesome. And I made things right there. I saved up 35 grand. I was able to use that plus credit to be able to buy real estate. I was educating myself 4 hours every single day on real estate, on books, podcasts, YouTube, Bigger Pockets, very big back then, forums. I was running numbers on the calculator. I was having realtors send me leads. I was going to networking events. I was doing as much as I absolutely could to be able to get it to stick. Like speak the lingo, speak the language, calling up realtors, calling up brokers, calling up for sale by owners, doing due diligence on certain markets, understanding the ins and outs. And I just fell in love with the more that I would learn about the BRRRR strategy, the buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. That BRRRR strategy is just a value add. But that strategy I fell in love with. I fell in love with it so much. I was like, man, this is the thing that's going to help get me from where I'm at to where I need to be. It's going to help me hit financial goals. It's going to feel good making the worst thing in the neighborhood the best thing. It's going to feel good having a great product that I can rent out or sell or something, tax beneficial, all the things. And that's what took place. I ended up figuring out how to get smart capital, right? How to end up put it to work, buy properties, renovate them, refinance them, and just repeat the process, right? Just keep on going at it. And so I'm grateful for that, because if I didn't have God, number one, to be able to give me discernment, wisdom, and to be able to give me a liking, a calling to this thing, God knows where I would be. Then number two is just falling in love with, doing all the due diligence, there's 30 plus ways to make money in real estate. I was searching up every single one of them. I thought I wanted to be a realtor until I found out I don't want to show homes. I don't want to be a slave to somebody else. I don't want to go here and there and everywhere and drive them around in my car and say, do you like this one? Do you like this one? Can I fill out all the paperwork for you? I hate paperwork. I don't fill out any paperwork. All right. My wife fills out all the paperwork. She likes paperwork. I don't like it. And so, I realized I want to be an investor. I want to be able to make the money moves. I want to make the decisions. I want to find something beat up, and I want to have the creativity to make it nice, something desirable, and improve the neighborhood, real life monopoly. And so that's what took place. That's how life has changed. And truthfully, just in 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, I was making about $12,000 a month just off of real estate. Had no money into any of the real estate, started getting tax benefits from the real estate, getting cash flow from the real estate, and everything changed just from that. I was still working my restaurant bussing serving job, making only like I think it was $1,900 a month, $1,900 a month on paper. I was making probably another $1,000 in reality off of tips. And so it really just came out to, I think, like $2,900 a month I was making, but I was making more off the real estate, about 12,000. Okay. It was a big deal. And I still wasn't quitting. I still just addicted to the job and the consistency and the friends. And so I was just loyal to that until I finally got fired because I was taking more real estate calls while I'm systemizing the business. And then once I got fired from that, I started actually going all in on real estate. Within a couple days later, just 3 days later, I ended up getting an opportunity to invest and project manage a big deal here in San Diego. And I did. And it sparked interest. It sparked confidence and boldness. And what took place is I invested in a crook. It was a crook of a person. He's in jail now, and I lost a bunch of money on that. But God still showed up. He showed up in a better way. Because the money that I lost from that, I actually got exactly that much back off of a SBA, very affordable low loan that ended up protecting me. And I learned so much there that I was able to be able to take that information, the confidence, boldness of doing real estate here locally, and the contacts, the construction crew, and dealing with the city and permits and all those things. I was able to learn that piece of it, hands-on experience, to be able to find the next deal and then be able to crush it. Our first property out here in San Diego was a fourplex, and we got great numbers. We got a great construction done. We renovated the whole thing. We got good, affordable, like, wild. and that thing has cash flow like crazy. We were able to refinance the mortgage 2.9%. You know, it's worth so much. It's in a beautiful area right down the street from Balboa Park, and just incredible type of experience. And that gave more confidence to do the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And we did a bunch of these in San Diego. And now we got rid of all of our properties over in Ohio and New Jersey and New York. We still have properties and syndications that we're in Arizona, but here in San Diego is just all of our own properties out here. And now we're doing ground up construction, and that's been a huge blessing, costing about $300 to $340 a square foot to build, but it's worth $900 a square foot afterwards. Like, we're just printing money. And so the cash flow, the tax benefits, you know, the appreciation. We own $14 million worth of real estate assets today. We have about 4.3 million in equity. We have no money into any of it. We have about $50,000 a month coming in from it. It's great. And we get $1 million plus in tax credits and deductibles and so forth yearly, typically. So when we build up these ground up construction and finish them, we're about to get done on one of them in a couple weeks. That one's going to be incredible, but we're about to get started on 4 units in about a month or so, and that's going to be incredible. And so I tell you all this to tell you, like, hey, wherever you're at, it doesn't matter if you feel like you're at the top of the mountain right now. Guess what? You're not. You might be the top of your mountain within your circle. Get out of your damn circle. You can't be the guy. You can't be the girl within your circle. You can't be the one. You got to get out of that damn circle and get yourself into a mastermind group with high-level individuals. That's where I've always seen the biggest success. I've always challenged myself by you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So if you're the man within your circle, that's because you're settling with being around some small guys. Get in front of some big players. And then vice versa, if you think you're the worst, if you think there's no hope, if you're tired of hitting your wall or hitting your face against the wall, if you are tired of being frustrated, if you're tired of being tired, if you don't know what to do next, then a lot of it's going to come down to your mindset and your daily activities. Those 2 years that I was fighting the court process, I was still working 2 jobs. I was working the morning shift and then the night shift at an Italian restaurant at night, a Thai restaurant during the day, and I was still putting in 4 hours a day on just knowledge and education. I was reading books, podcasts, YouTube. I was taking notes. I was doing due diligence on my lunch break. I was doing the same thing. I was donating plasma at least once a week. I was collecting cans. I was hustling. I was making money. I was trying to save up. I was trying to make the smart moves. Okay. And in full transparency, I wasn't trying. I was doing it. Okay. I was doing it because I was determined to stay busy and not go backwards or fall into a rabbit hole of doing the wrong things. So you got to ask yourself, are you trying or are you actually just doing it? I'd rather fail forward every single day. I'd rather push the limits and say, at least I tried. At least I tried, right? But you got to go for it. You got to go for it and stop playing games. Just know, though, that if you feel like you're the worst or you've been counted out or you're not where you want to be or where you need to be, if you think there's no hope for you, you are correct. Okay? If you think those things, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are correct. Okay? It's your mindset. So stop thinking those negative stinking thinking thoughts and start getting yourself on the aspect of, like, man, when there's a will, there's a way. I have that on my rubber band right here on the sleeve because I mean it. I mean it. It has helped me every single time. How bad do you want it? How bad if you look at me and you're like, hey, if Brandon can do it, are you freaking kidding me? Why can't I do it? I grew up in special ed. I was in special ed classes. I had a bunch of stupid things happen to me, a bunch of dumb things that I'd done to myself from my choices. You got to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? If somebody like Brandon could do it, or anybody, there's so many successful people out there. There's people that the new millionaire is really the new broke. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. You're going to want to realize that the middle class is getting more, like, the rich is getting more separated. And it's not their fault. It's not your fault. It wasn't taught in school. It wasn't taught at the dinner table. And I get it. It wasn't taught for me either. But if the desire is there, then when there's a will, there's a way. It may not be your fault, but it is your problem. So now that you know the problem, what are you going to do to solve that problem is the question I have for you today. That's my question to you. So you sit with that and you realize like, man, when there is a will, there's a way. I need to get around these stinking thinking people. I need to stop being the average of them. I need to get around some high level people. I'm not a victim mindset. I'm a conqueror type of mindset. Then go after it. See what that will do for you. I promise it'll change your life in so many different ways. Okay. Anyway, I didn't realize that I was going to rant on this whole hour about all this, but I pray that it hits you guys at the right time, at the right season, if needed. And so yeah, that's it. That's it. That's all I got. If you got something, then make sure that you message me. You can always do so on Instagram. It's Brandon Elliott Investments. Otherwise, on Instagram, our business page is Credit Counsel Elite. You can also, on YouTube, I think it's Brandon Elliott Investments. Follow us, hit the little bell, subscribe, like make sure that you are communicating, leave some comments, share this out with a friend, family member, significant other. Check out our podcast too. It's Ready, Set, Go. REI podcast. That's Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast. REI podcast. We have like 450 episodes. We've been doing it for 8+ years. Every single Monday, a new episode drops. Subscribe to that. You'll get the newest episode that drops every single Monday. So you got the notification for that. And then after listening to a few of those, leave that 5-star review. Greatly appreciate all the love, all the support lately. You guys are amazing. Keep that up. Yeah. And let me pray for you guys right now. I feel called to pray for you. So I do pray that this, if you needed to hear this, that your ears were opened to be able to pick this up. Okay? Let me pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for bringing us together. We thank you, Lord, for the influence and the power of your word to go through my mouth and into their ears, Lord, that as you are able to meet each and every listener where they are at, you're able to speak life into them. You're able to speak wisdom that surpasses all understanding. You're able to guide them, minister to them, and heal hearts, any wounds that they have, any brokenness that they have, any backgrounds that they come from. We declare that there is fruitfulness taking place right now, that your will be done in their lives. Not our will, but your will. We thank you for the freedom that you've given us, but sometimes, Lord, we just need you to grab the wheel. So we declare that in Jesus' mighty name. We declare time management and money management and abundance mindsets, that the mindset of when there's a will, there's a way, Lord, that we rather fail forward and stumble to success and stumble into your arms rather than try to make it picture perfect, Lord, that we don't need to be picture perfect. You take us exactly how we are. So right now, I just declare the Holy Spirit reach out to each and every single listener right now in Jesus' mighty name, that they are able to be impacted, that they are surrounded, that they are protected, that there's a hedge of protection around their mindsets. There's a hedge of protection around their home. There's a hedge of protection around their cars, their vehicles, wherever they stay, wherever they are, Lord, wherever they spend 5 minutes or more. We declare that your will be done in their lives, and there's a protection around them, that the enemy's attacks to steal, kill, and destroy will cease to exist, that will be broken off and dismantled, because we know your will always be done. You will have the final say in everything. We thank you, Lord, for what you're doing in this season. We pray that there is abundance that comes and flows, that seasons come and go, but this season that we're walking into right now, that you're able to skyrocket each and every person, take them closer to you, take them into your wings, and to be able to bless each and every person right here. Allow broken families to be united, allow financial burdens to be dismissed, and allow signs, miracles, and wonders to take place. Allow dreams to unfold, and to be able to have just fresh oil over their hearts, fresh oil over their homes. And we declare a fresh fire in their hearts to be able to stir up. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. All right, gang, you guys have an amazing day. Get out there, have fun, and then make sure that you hit the subscribe, or I don't know what it is, for next Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be here, as always. So make sure that you follow and you register for the next one. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. All right. Adios, amigos. Love you guys. Have fun. Peace out.
This has been another episode of Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing Podcast, brought to you by Brandon Elliott. For more information, please visit BrandonElliottInvestments.com. Also, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. Thanks again for joining. Until next time, God bless.